What's your relationship to being called forward? To having another man, if you are a man, who is speaking to you from a place of being able to see you and seeing where you're contracting or where you're playing small and calling you forward on it. Ask yourself this question: who in your inner circle, whom you surround yourselves with, who is that person? Is there a name that comes to mind? Maybe you don't have a particular person who embodies that or who is bringing that forth for you. And I like to share an example of how this showed up for me as a blind spot. And what I mean by blind spot, this inability to be with the energy of masculine directed focus and reflective feedback, as I felt I was being attacked because I didn't necessarily have that model for many years within my own life of that from a very young age. So a few years back, I was a part of a men's group myself. And in this particular session during this week, and we met on a weekly basis, I was communicating what was present for me. However, I was not communicating in a manner that the other men felt was coming from a place of depth and a place from my heart. So after I spoke, one of the men asked in particular, he said, "Would you be open for a reflection?" And I said, yes. And he communicated that he noticed something inside of me, that I seemed to be communicating from my head and not my heart. And I instantly felt like I was being attacked based off of this reflection that I agreed and was open to receiving. But I didn't necessarily have many models growing up who communicated that way to me. So when it came to masculine type of communication, of being seen and being heard by others, it was something that I desired, but whenever it actually appeared and showed up to me, for me, I created these stories and these judgments around others who would speak that way to me. So I instantly went on attack mode. And I felt like almost incapable of receiving this feedback. And it was interesting because it wasn't just one man in the group. Other men offered the same reflection. Like, yeah, B, it seems like you're speaking from your head and not your heart. And I bring that up because I remember at the time feeling a lot of anger at the time, and not necessarily being with the anger from a place of me recognizing that the anger was my own. I projected this out to the other men as they were the reason, and they were the ones who were responsible for my anger that was coming up in the moment. So I dismissed what their reflections were. I got off of the call that particular session, and I remember being super frustrated and upset, thinking that every single man in there didn't know what they were talking about, that they were, somehow they were out to get me, how they didn't understand me. I created all these stories and all this rhetoric around them being wrong and me being right. And fast forward, as you continue to be in dialogue and continue to understand others and be able to see these patterns and some of these different triggers that can show up for other people, it wasn't until I was even removed from the actual group itself. When I mean removed, I mean we had finished off several months together, that I recognized, like, wow, this is something that is a particular pattern of mine at the time. This propensity to, whenever I felt maybe some anxiousness or I felt nervous, to begin to breathe shallow, so more from my chest than my belly or my stomach. And once I would begin to breathe from a shallow rate, then I would naturally start to speak from up here in the head and not from my base or within my heart. And I bring this up and I share this because, kind of going back to the beginning, who is someone within your circle, someone who, if they see certain pieces within you, if they see certain areas within you that may come across as inauthentic or come across as not being aligned to what maybe you have communicated as a desire of yours, or maybe the direction in which you have shared that you want to go, who's calling you forward on those times when you're not in alignment? Who's in that circle? And you know, it's interesting because growing up, you know, my pops, he passed when I was just after my 12th birthday. And a lot of men, you know, more than, I think I read this statistic that over 50% of men, especially men of color, are raised in single parent households. And more times than not, it's the mother who is raising the boys, you know, into men. And when a mother is raising a son, and there is not this healthy, present, masculine, focused energy from a male mentor or model, whether it be a father or uncle or someone that's just close around for that particular child or young boy, then these patterns can be built from a very young age that just naturally carry over into adulthood, of not only suppression, but of feeling, having being very defensive towards directed and masculine type energy. So I share this to invite you to ask yourself these questions. You know, how does that show up for yourself? When is the last time you've had someone, whether it be a friend, a relative, someone in your circle, who has said, look, I'd like to share something with you. You've communicated X, Y, and Z, and you've shared these things multiple times, but your actions are not in alignment with your words. So what's going on here? Are you either going to do X, Y, and Z, or are you not going to do it? What's your decision? And when we have this type of dialogue, this type of rhetoric, and when it's coming from a grounded place, a place of love, a place of not making it about, oneself, but truly making it about this is something that needs to be communicated and shared. And I'm doing a disservice if I don't bring this up in a context that could potentially change or expand the trajectory of this other person's life in front of me. Then that is what is created on the sense of holding back. And when we're able to be in a safe space of others who we can build a brotherhood with, others who have a desire to tap into their fullest potential, and are able to look at life as a journey where there is no true mountaintop. We're always growing, we're always evolving, and there's a beauty in that piece, because if we have this mindset of there's always opportunities for growth and there's always opportunities to advance and evolve, then naturally we're much more open to life as a journey, and we're open to being more mindful and being more intentional with how we're creating ourselves in the moment, and how that continues to evolve, and how that continues to show up, and how that continues to be channeled as we move forward.